Welcome to American Dreams, Keys to Success, with your host, Alan Olson.
Welcome back. I'm here today with Doug Keaston. He's a private wealth client advisor here in the San Francisco Bay Area. Welcome to today's show.
Thanks very much, Alan.
Doug, can you give me your background?
I'm happy to do so. I'm actually a native Californian. My family's been in San Francisco for 5 generations. And I grew up here, went to school down in Pebble Beach at Robert Louis Stevenson School. Then came up and I've worked for Bank of America for 20 years in their corporate bank, and about a year ago moved over to their wholly owned trust company, U.S. Trust.
You know, your family, 5 generations. Now, I understand your family started Keaston Brothers.
That's right.
And they were making whips and saddles way back in the 1800s, mid-1800s they started up?
That's right, Alan. Not too long after statehood. In 1868, Keaston Brothers was founded in San Francisco by James Keaston.
And how is that heritage? I guess being with a legacy saddle maker there.
I found it to advantage. I now live in Woodside, which is a very horse-oriented community, and the fact that I have that Western heritage where they started out making whips, eventually got into saddle making, and actually in the early 1900s were one of the largest saddle manufacturers on the West Coast. So actually a lot of people have heard of the brand, and some even have Keaston saddles back in their tack rooms.
Whatever spurred your grandfather to get, or was it grandfather, great-grandfather?
Well, yeah, it was 5 generations ago that actually came over from England. So, and as I understand it, there was a very severe economic depression in England, and that's when perhaps a lot of folks considered leaving and migrating here to America. He hit the East Coast, actually stayed in Massachusetts for 5 years, I believe during the Civil War, and he was making harnesses to aid in the war effort. And when things settled down, it was after that that he migrated to San Francisco via the Panama Isthmus.
So, where's the company today? Are you still involved, or what?
The family is not. Keaston Brothers is still ongoing in a form. A company acquired it about a dozen years ago, and until then, it was one of the 4 or 5 longest continually operating companies in San Francisco.
Now, I understand your grandfather was the head of the Pacific Stock Exchange?
He was, actually on 3 separate occasions. He was one of the largest pure stockbrokers in San Francisco, and had the pleasure of serving as president of the Pacific Coast Stock Exchange 3 times.
You know, that must have been, within the household, I guess it was an exciting times when stocks were merging and, the economy here was expanding out in the Bay Area. Was your grandfather involved in real estate too, or?
He was not, but it is funny that through my work now at U.S. Trust, I find so many analogs in my own family history. With him being an investment manager to many and a stockbroker, there are a lot of parallels with what I'm doing now in my own career.
Well, let's move into your career. So what are some of the different ways individuals can finance real estate?
There are a variety of them. One thing about U.S. Trust is we're a $190 billion trust company. It's been around for 150 years, and we have our own platform that can help our clients in very many ways. But we're also a window into the broader capabilities of Bank of America. So we can finance real estate, commercial real estate, residential real estate in a variety of ways. Currently, especially with the low interest rates, a lot of our clients actually find advantages to using their investments to generate liquidity. We had a client actually in Florida in a very tough condominium market that wanted to proceed with a project there before the economy locally had stabilized. And so he actually borrowed via U.S. Trust on his artwork in order to effect and start the project ahead of potential competitors.
What should people be aware of with respect to credit risk?
Well, generally, it mirrors the broader domestic and global economy, right? There's not as much transparency these days, I would suggest, as in the past. So I think we certainly suggest to our clients that they be cautious and structure their opportunities to withstand downside scenarios. And so while there are a lot of opportunities these days, I think given the recent difficulties that the economy and the banking industry went through, financing structures tend to be toward the conservative side.
Yeah, well, I'm visiting here today with Doug Keaston. He's a private wealth client advisor for the ultra high net worth clients here in the San Francisco Bay Area. Doug, we need to take a quick break, and we'll be right back after these messages. And when we get back, I want to get into succession planning and what that's about today.
Okay.
With current laws, we have left our children an enormous financial burden. Even though they may be too young to understand it. At GROCO, we care about you and the ones you love, and the quality of your and their lives. Call us today to see how we can help. 877-CPA-2006.
GROCO, helping you along the way.
Apple pie, baseball, and now here's All-American Alan Olson.
Welcome back. I'm visiting here today with Doug Keaston. He's a private wealth client advisor here in the San Francisco Bay Area. And Doug, it was said a couple of years ago, Deloitte had written a paper, a white paper on the transition of the baby boomers from the workforce into retirement. And they said that starting in 2010, and over the next 15 years, 80% of the workforce, basically representing the baby boomer generation, will be retiring, right, which is going to create, a paradigm shift to this economy that we live in today. So now you focus in on succession planning with your position there.
I do. In fact, U.S. Trust advises many of our clients on that topic, Alan.
So how are we approaching succession planning today?
Well, first, I've become aware of certain interesting statistics there. U.S. Trust did a study and found that over half the business owners actually had no succession plan in place. So it is an area that's ripe for improvement. Ironically, the business owners spend a great deal of time building value, creating value, and they work very hard at that. It appears, given those statistics, that they spend less effort on making sure that through succession planning, whether it occurs suddenly or in a more planned, timely manner, that there's not value destruction that occurs attendant with that.
So I'm coming to you today saying, Doug, I got a business. I don't have a clue what to do. Advise me.
Right. And one nice thing, Alan, about the U.S. Trust model is I'm a private client advisor with U.S. Trust, and I work with a team of specialists. So whereas we have a very broad, perhaps the broadest platform in the country in terms of the services that we deliver to our clients to manage their family wealth and their intergenerational planning, the breadth of that platform gives us a lot of specialized expertise. And this area with succession planning is where we have individuals that focus on that as a core competency. So we can bring in those specialists to advise each of individual or family, trust, philanthropy on ways they can move forward and make sure that any wealth transfers that occur are done optimally.
Who should have a succession plan?
Really anyone with sizable assets. And ironically, as I mentioned to you, a lot of folks do not. Those that tend to are younger, which I find completely ironic. The statistics I've seen, Alan, those age 67 or older, a lot of those folks do not have a succession plan. And I would suggest I take care of myself. I have a good diet, but I still would not bet that at that age something might not occur to me suddenly. And as I mentioned, a lot of folks spend tremendous time and resources building the value. And really a succession plan is to some extent an insurance policy on preserving that and transferring it as effectively as possible over time.
What type of clientele do you deal with?
We at U.S. Trust, we can meet a variety of clients' needs. Our strategic clients tend to have net worths of $10 million and above, But really, U.S. Trust can help anyone with $500,000 of investable assets or more.
So are you finding in today's world, with all the volatility of the markets, people having more anxiety out there?
I am. And I view my job as helping people. And I help them because we all face that situation where we're tied up with the things that press our daily schedules, building businesses, building companies, or managing charitable endeavors. And what we can do is take care of the core wealth management needs for our clients and investing needs, and really help them with specialized expertise, whereas they may not have the time to devote to it themselves.
So you look at your role really as helping people have a peace of mind.
Yes, I do.
What they do. I'm visiting here today with Doug Keaston. He's a private wealth advisor, client advisor here in the San Francisco Bay Area. Doug, I want to take a quick break, and after we get back, let's talk about stock markets in today's volatile environment, and maybe some ways that we can plan our future.
Okay.
We'll be right back after these messages.
He's the world's most trustworthy man. Tax filing deadlines are scheduled around his vacation calendar. The IRS agent who audited his client apologized.
I don't always advise people on their taxes, but when I do, I save them every penny legally possible.
GROCO CPAs and Advisors.
Come to GROCO and stay wealthy, my friend.
Apple pie, baseball, and now here's All-American Alan Olson.
Welcome back. I'm here today with Doug Keaston. He's a private wealth advisor with the Bank of America here in the San Francisco Bay Area. And before the break, we're talking about succession planning. But I'd like to move over into the topic of retirement, investing in retirement strategies. First, what is asset allocation? When I hear that you need to have an asset allocation to your investment portfolio, what does that mean?
Right. It can vary, Alan, for each client, especially depending on their worth and their risk profile. But it's basically implementing a diversification strategy with their assets to ensure that they optimize returns against any given risk level.
Why do I need to diversify?
One, to achieve the highest risk-adjusted returns that are that can be achieved. And it's also, since I came out of a risk background myself with Bank of America and have moved into U.S. Trust, I certainly bring that as a legacy with me. And so asset allocation through the diversification, especially in today's uncertain times with all the global uncertainties, especially at a macro level, it's very important to be diversified and to make sure that there's no one area where you can achieve, sizable losses.
What should people be thinking about today in the retirement accounts?
One, asset allocation, as you mentioned, but really planning early and making sure time is on their side in order to accumulate wealth and compound over time to ensure that they meet their retirement objectives.
Is there a different strategy at different ages for asset allocation?
Oh, absolutely. And it can link a little bit to personality type, but generally the older one is, the more cautious and conservative one should be with the investments and the asset allocation profile, because there's less time for them to earn it back before the time when they may need it.
So I'm looking at retirement. Let's say that I'm in my late 60s. I got 3 years out for retirement. Are there concerns that you as an advisor would have today with the volatility in today's market, together with the fact that you're going to have a lot of people transitioning from the workforce at the same time?
Absolutely. We look at the macro themes, and one nice thing about U.S. Trust is we have what we call our top-of-the-house thought leadership. And these are very seasoned investors with excellent track records that look at the macro themes both in the U.S. Domestic economy and globally as well. And from those, they provide our portfolio managers with timely information on the areas to best invest to achieve the highest risk-adjusted returns. And of course, that translates to the benefit of our clients. We always provide that as a benefit and perspective to our clients, but ultimately we customize our investing for each client based on their own needs and risk profiles.
How often should a person be adjusting their portfolio?
It depends on the complexity of it and the positioning of it, but generally we're talking to our clients at least 3 to 4 times a year in the ordinary course, and then when secular change or large events might occur, it could be more frequently.
So give me an example, a person getting ready for retirement, what type of investment strategy would they be employing?
It depends a little bit on their objectives. In other words, what's the situation with where they're living now, their children, where are they at that stage in their life, and perhaps where are they moving or planning, where will their domicile be for retirement. But based on a variety of needs, we look at their situation holistically. And one nice thing, I talked about our team approach at U.S. Trust, we have wealth strategists that will actually model based on our clients' assumptions. Monte Carlo simulations, that's a description of a variety of complex models that will produce a range of potential outcomes for our clients so that through a dialogue, we can find a way to best accomplish their objectives.
What's a realistic return that people should be looking at in today's market?
Oh, there's a tough question because it does relate so much to their portfolio, whether they're conservative and if they're late in life, perhaps they're conservative about maintaining their principal rather than risking it. So it can definitely range depending on the types of investments from anywhere from 3, 4, 5% up to as high as 12, 15%, depending on how they orient their investments, and how they choose which segments they choose to invest in. Again, we talked about asset allocation and the diversification, so we may achieve a variety of those returns that end up in a blended return for our clients.
Now, I understand that in your position, you've been involved with some ranch and timberland.
Yes, that's right. That's one of the things that was a big draw for me personally to U.S. Trust. U.S. Trust has a specialty asset management group, and we will go out and acquire and manage for our clients, generally our wealthier clients, farmland, ranch land, timberland, oil and gas properties, commercial properties, and even private businesses. For example, Alan, we're the largest fiduciary manager of farmland in the United States. So we have something on the order of a $12 billion portfolio of that, of those kinds of assets for our clients. And again, we'll buy or sell or help them manage them. And it's something that, especially these days, our clients are finding increasingly interesting.
Do you find that in today's world that having hard assets is better?
Yes, some of our clients really are drawn to that. Yes, that's precisely the case.
It seems as time goes on to have that tangible piece of property is more comforting.
Yes, and in the case of timberland, it's always hard to know, but one could certainly make a case that given that home building is in an early recovery phase, it's perhaps good timing, to consider a timberland investment.
Like, how does one reach you?
I can be reached a variety of ways. I'm with U.S. Trust. That's ustrust.com. My name is Douglas Keyston, Keyston. I have my own web page that is part of the U.S. Trust site, and then my phone number is 650-849-2193. My email address, Alan, is douglas.keyston, Keyston, at ustrust.com.
Doug, I'm enjoying having you on today's show.
Thank you, Alan.
We'll be right back after these messages.
You're listening to American Dreams with Alan Olson on AM 1220 KDOW.